the kids take down their Christmas tree, and we all get together as a community and we set those trees on fire.
Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. Because the fire get hot, hot, hot. And the mosquito them drop, drop, drop. And then the fire get hot, red hot. And the mosquito them pop, pop, pop. And they do the Bobby Wombo. And they do the Bobby Wombo. And they do the Bobby Wombo. Oh, and then they do the Bobby Wombo. Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. 'Cause me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. The bare leg we bite, bite, bite. The barbecue just right, right, right. We making music through the night, night, night. And then they make a fire light, light, light. And they do the Bobby Wombo. 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 And then 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 they do the Bobby Wombo.
Mosquito bite on the leg and feet.
Move your body, sway to the beat.
Hear the punching check, hear the band.
Call the bombero fireman.
Find a partner, then grab a tree.
Throw it in on the count of three.
Step back, watch the fire rise. Watch mosquito drop from the sky. Mosquito bite on the leg and feet. Move your body straight to the beat. Hear the punching check, hear the band. Call the bombero fireman. Find your partner, then grab a tree. Throw it in on the count of three. Step back, watch the fire rise. Watch mosquito drop from the sky.
Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn.
Woo! Yeah, New Year's Eve, baby. I love it. I'm still partying. I got my crunk cup on. What is it? January what? I don't know. It's like the first of 2020. January 3rd, 2021.
I thought it was
I got my
2025, dog.
2025, man. I was in a time warp, man. I'm drinking my Ron Abuelo con Saril, man. It's delicious. So,
Yeah, man. I got my Seco with OJ because I got to keep, my vitamin C. 'Cause, no matter what year it is,
right.
Rona's not going to get me, dog.
that's right. You got to keep your health up. You got to keep your spirits up. And that's what we're here about today.
That's
We're keeping our spirits up. 2021 has started. And today we're going to go over the new. Hey, how was your New Year's? Tell us real quick.
Hey, I've been going hard since 31st December, man. You know me.
Oh,
Party,
I love it.
party
Dude,
hard,
the
dog.
rapscallions always go hard. And you know what? Today, we're going to talk all about it. We're going to talk about all the things that the...
Hello, hello, hello. Yes, that's right. We're going to talk all about the things. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hola, Karina.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hello. I got tired of hearing them talk, so we're gonna.
Well,
take over.
here's the thing. We thought 2021, fresh show, new faces, fresh faces. There we go. Dear audience, hello, hello, hello. 2021. Today, the Femscallions are taking over, and we're super happy to be on the show, and we have plenty to talk. So, Kelly, why don't you start us off with what we would like to start the show with?
All right. So we have an agenda. A quick, well, not really like
We
an
do.
agenda. Some talking points.
I
So
do.
we're
I'm
gonna
so old
talk
school.
about-
I have it
I know,
written
right?
down.
So we wanted to talk about goals. Basically, it's a good moment to look at the next part of the year, starting fresh, looking at goals and how to achieve them, and then like our goals that we talked about, sort of thing.
Absolutely, that's right. Yeah. So, how do you approach goals for 2021?
for me or for like in general?
For you.
Mine specifically is book related.
Right. Okay.
What about yours?
Mine, I have different ones. I definitely books, which we are actually going to talk about a lot today, which I'm super excited about. I have goals. It was pretty hard because 2021, I have no idea what's going to happen. I think a lot of people don't know what's going to happen. I mean, if you have a job, you're blessed. If you don't have a job, it's pretty hard to know what's coming. So I have a lot of friends. It has not, it hasn't been so good, for them. But so what I was thinking is instead of I want to do this or I don't want to do this, I want to stop doing this, I want to stop doing that. I know we talked about that prior. I think it is super important to do the following. Instead of saying I'm going to stop doing this, for myself, my goal is to change that and be like, I want to start doing more things or different things.
That's a good idea.
Because I feel it is inhibiting, or it's not fun when you have to stop something. So yeah, you have your bad habits maybe, but maybe change it. Everything is in the mind. It's a mindset. That's how I feel. And so I want to start doing different things or more of what I like instead of saying stop drinking the soda, stop, I don't know,
See, I agree. It's a lot of people take this moment to like diet, basically. I'm gonna stop eating pizza, I'm gonna stop drinking soda, or stop drinking or lower alcohol. It's usually something like stopping, and it's usually something that's easy, like food. And I've noticed that very few people, like you say, add on, like, this year I'm gonna volunteer more, at least once a month, or I'm going to I don't know, go outside to a different park, every time you go, do something new experiences. And it's also a really good way to change habits. So you replace them with something positive instead of thinking like, I'm not gonna eat cake. All you're thinking is of the cake. So you have to replace it with something positive. So I agree. I like the whole challenging and adding on to life instead of just being like, I'm gonna stop doing something.
I tried. So for me, I have to be honest, I was never a New Year's person. It's not important for me, it's not like, wow, now a new life, a new me, I've never been like this. I tried it though. I did once, and that's 2 years ago, and that's the only time I'm really proud of it, where I did the let's stop. That's when I stopped smoking for good. So I have 2 years, and that was on the 1st of January. So that was because I wanted to challenge myself to something like, okay, I'm going to stop. So I quit the...
Well, that's a good thing. No, that's great.
It ended up, yeah. I don't think I was fun the first 6 weeks because it was one of the hardest things I have done so far.
It's like the withdrawal, the cranky, the like on edge.
It wasn't fun. But anyhow, so that was the only time I said like, I'm going to do a New Year's resolution on quitting on something. And that was the cigarette. So that turned out to be okay.
No, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing to stop, Karina. And that's good. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm super happy about it. For this year, and I would like to dive into that, we mentioned books. I definitely want to take care more even of my garden. I'm a very outdoorsy person, and I like my plants. That's like I work a lot, and then I have all these projects going in the morning to the garden or in the evening, in the afternoon. And right now, just yesterday, I started planting kiwi. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see if it's gonna happen. I'll keep you posted. But that's apart from reading more, I want to spend more time in nature this year.
And I bet if they grow, they're going to be delicious, because last time, a couple of months ago, HB brought us like a bag of limones.
Oh, the lemons.
So limones.
Yes.
Oh
Also,
God,
dear
those
audience,
limones.
welcome to the most mixed Spanglish show of the year.
I know, what a bad habit.
Because both of us do it, and so it's good. So just for the audience, so they understand. Okay, we do Spanish a lot.
Yeah. So the lemons from your property are the best lemons I have ever tried in my life.
Oh, thank you so much. They're so juicy. Hold on.
They're just like, there's love. Like you guys go to them and you're like, I love lemons. Like you kiss them every day.
I just got a message from outside. I don't know how that happened. Somebody wrote magically something on my old school notepad. It says, introduce yourselves. Like, why not?
Ah, that's right.
Well, Kelly, This is Kelly Walsh, Mesquita, the better half of Joe Mesquita.
And this is Karina, HB's wife as well, replacing HB.
That is right. That's right. So yeah, thank you guys for sticking with us. We're having a lot of fun so far. Yeah,
I totally forgot to introduce ourselves.
That's fine. No, we're so famous. Everybody should know us by now. All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us. Stay with us. We're going to have plenty to talk about. And the lemons. So yes, absolutely. Those lemons, that lemon tree is extremely old, I think. We've been taking care of it a lot. It gets a lot of abono, a lot of like good fertilizer stuff, plenty of water, and everybody just, we like giving lemons to our friends. And so we go around, we have the brown paper bags, and we're like, you know, when life gives you lemons for real, it's it's the best thing, actually.
Best lemonade. Oh my gosh, no, super.
And
So
the
quick
ceviche.
question. So besides
Good stuff.
gardening, I know we're gonna talk about books in a little bit, and that's gonna be like a big part of us because you and I, we love to read books.
Yes. we do.
Yeah. So for my end, there was one year that I tried to do meditation every single day, and it actually worked. But my lesson from it was to not wait till the end of the day, because then sometimes it was like, oh man, I gotta meditate for 5 minutes. I yellow fast, and so basically like. Sometimes I'll add other things, but like my main goal every single year, every New Year's, I set my new reading goal for the next year. And so that is something that is constant, like throughout, I guess, like the past 5 or 6 years. I've been reading constantly with my goals. But it's good to add on other things, right? Even if you don't make them, like at least you tried, right?
Yes,
at least you
I
learned
think so,
something
yes.
from them. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like at least you try. You can say like it didn't work, but at least I tried. So tell me about the meditation, because that is another thing I can talk about for hours. Do you like it? What's your approach, and what do you? Because there's 1,000 different, and none is wrong.
There
and none
is,
is right.
there is.
So whatever works
Yes.
for you.
Yes, I actually read a book about meditation. It's somewhere behind me here.
Like Kelly, she reads a book.
It's just so much. It's like the theory and then practice. It's how I like to do stuff. I tried it for a full year. I had an app, and so I set it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I had different times setting in there, and it would let me know every minute or 5 minutes. Like you could set it. And I don't like the guided meditations. Like people talking to me, like it doesn't really relax me. What I like to do is just sort of is do like the mind blank thing, but it's actually the most difficult.
It is the
So
hardest thing.
I realized that did not work for me because you have to kind of baby step it. You know, baby steps means find a mantra, do something like a habit change, or a type of like thought changing sort of thing, right? So that works easier, trying to focus on the same thing over and over and over, or focusing on an image versus trying to blank your mind. It is the most difficult. And so a lot of people think, oh, I can't do this, this is too hard. It really is the hardest. People think it's really easy. You just don't think of anything. It is not easy. It's super difficult.
Did you see that
yeah.
magically there's like booze bottles flying out of your cabinet behind you magically?
I know, it's
I
magic.
don't know how this happened. No, but here's the thing about meditation, and I hear that a lot. It is a lot more work than people think, because it's
Yes.
exactly like you have to get to a point where you have a blank mind, and only then you can relax. So for me, my journey with that has been in 2015. I took a Vipassana class, or
Oh, wow.
it's a seminar, and it's 10 days. So you go somewhere for 10 days. You're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to write anything. No books, by the way. No books, no reading, no
Really?
nothing.
No
No
note-taking?
contact. No note taking. Exactly. No note taking. And practically, they simulate a life of a monk for several days, or of a nun. And you meditate. You get up at 3:30 in the morning. You
Wow.
start by 4:30, and by 8:30 you stop. So it's a long days on that. But what they teach you practically is all we do is called Vipassana technique. Is all you do is you focus on your breath, and that's all you do. And you don't even breathe harder or faster, or it's your natural breath, how it comes in and how it goes out, as flat as it might be. Mine is super low, right? So it's not a very heavy breath. And in the beginning, I had struggled just to feel it, because they tell you like you have to focus on your nose and how it comes in and out, and that's it. And
And
that's
like
it.
your lungs filling in, filling out sort of thing.
All you do is you feel your body, and then happens that you actually will have a blank mind, and that's when you meditate for real. But And the teacher was so funny. He's like, but the moment that we pressure ourselves that we have to have this blank mind state, we are already pressuring ourselves. So we go into meditation being like, oh, I need to have a blank mind, which is not going to happen because all you think about is having a blank mind, which means you are already thinking.
You're thinking
So
of something. Yes. Yes. And
It's the
like,
monkey
and
brain.
part of what I read is also like, and what do you do when you do have a thought? Because I mean, we're always worried about something, or we're thinking about something, or we have some chore to do. There's always something that we can like, that'll pop up. Like, oh, I forgot to write down tomatoes on the list, and you're like, no, like, So what you're supposed to do is kind of like when you are closing apps on your phone. It's either like something like that, where you're like, okay, you have to recognize it, but then take it away, and then go back. So like instead of trying not to think about it, it's like, okay, this I'll do later, and just kind of like, so you actively keep yourself in the but it takes focus. Oh my gosh, no, it's really hard.
It does. It
Have you
does.
been able to
It's-
do that? The whole like blank.
It takes by day 3 I call it Buddha's boot camp because you get to a point because you get to a point where you have to sit still for an hour in the same position. All of this builds up to eventually just being really present with yourself in your bubble, in how you sit. Yes, after day 3 I wanted to quit. Mentally, I was
Wow.
like, this is because it's hard in a way. Just because there's no contact, you're not allowed to have eye contact, So you have sessions at night where you can sign up if you need to talk to the teacher. You can do that. Other than that, it feels very lonely. It might happen that you start feeling lonely. I had a friend of mine, I met after that. I mean, when we were able to talk again. She told me by day 5 she really wanted to quit just because she felt everything was hostile. But the good thing that happened is because this is outward, right? We receive everybody's doing like critique from here. Everybody's looking at me the wrong way. Why, So you take it in with a pre-mindset, and when you meditate, you get rid of all of that. So now, for me, I meditate when I know I understand there's a struggle coming along, or I don't feel well, or I have a depression coming around, because I do have that. But it helps me just to understand what it is and to know it will go away. And that's all what that is, meditation. Meditation taught me that you will never be stuck in the same position, right? So I think this is for whoever suffered very much in 2020 and still doesn't know about 2021. If you want to try meditation, please do it. I invite everyone, check on it. Whatever works. You don't have to do Vipassana. You can do Kelly, what you read in your book. Anything goes, as long as you can kind of like train yourself to be like present in the moment, and then just knowing and understanding this situation won't last forever. It will be better.
And it's very interesting that like you have to find the type that works for you. Like Joe, he likes the guided meditations. Like he'll find a video on YouTube or an app or something, and they'll say breathe in, do this, and there's sounds of like ocean or whatever, and it helps him. I know that doesn't help me, and so like when we've tried to do it together, I'm just like, why this person? No, like you have to know what works for you, basically. And I read 2 interesting things that I'm just not remembering. One was by he's a scholar. I forgot what his other role is, but his name is Thich Nhat Hanh. He wrote about the different types of meditation, the different mantras you can say, and the current Dalai Lama. He also writes several books about this, not just about meditation and Buddhism, but it's like about how things can be very generic, like about values without religion, without how meditation helps that, where it's more of like centering, being kind to each other and that sort of thing. And in his books, it's really interesting. He talks about what you just said. There's like 1,000 different types of meditation, and one of them, the most interesting that I found, was that they have this because in Buddhism they believe in reincarnation, and so that means taking care of your mind throughout your entire life, so that when you reach the end, you're not all over the place, And so, because death is very scary, what they have like a death meditation, and I was like, what? Did you know about that? Like I was really interested about that one, where it's sort of like in that moment, or the final moments, I guess, they basically kind of like they take their mind and they wrap it up, and so they present it so that it's not like chaos and screaming and horror. So when they do reincarnate, it's not like a terrible beginning. It's more of like a peaceful. I thought that was really interesting. I had never heard of that.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah.
Super. And again, it's like meditation is non-religious. So that's also, you
Yeah.
can be from any religion, whatever you believe, but meditation does not put you a god on top or whatnot. No, you can be from any religion.
Yeah.
Because all you do is you breathe in and you breathe out, and this is the essence of life at the end of the day. You breathe
and
in
that's a good
and you
point.
breathe out.
I remember a lot of people are very religious, and so they'll say, no, but I'm not into meditation, I'm into prayer. And prayer is actually kind of meditation by itself. It's a type of mantra that you repeat, and you have like a certain mentality. So it's sort of like kind of there. Yeah, but it's like you're saying, it's not really one specific religion. It's really for anybody who just wants to feel like inner calm and, be more centered, which I think is very good. I know we've gone like completely off topic,
Which is cool. Which is cool because I would like to know. That's fine. We said when we never prepped for this show, never. I would like to segue into. I love this word, by the way. I would like to segue into one of the books that connects with me with meditation and hold on, I have it right here.
Was it one of your top 5?
This is one of my all-time favorites that I always go back to because I love gardening, and this is called Palantas Medicinales Iberoamericanas, right? So when I go
Wow.
into my garden or when I go to Summit or when I go just anywhere in Panama, porque en Panama hay tantas plantas, o sea, like the amount of plants in this country is amazing. And so I go to this book when I take a picture of the plants, and then I for hours look up their medicinal uses, and there's so many. It's just
Wow.
one of my favorite go-to books, and it is from who wrote it. I'm so sorry. It's Convenio Andrés Bello, and it's de la Universidad de Panama, right? So
Nice.
yes, yeah. Super happy to have it because I know there's Google and I understand that, but to be honest, finding plant books about plants in Panama is really hard. It has not been how do you say categorized much. I know the
Organized.
the Smithsonian Institute. They're doing an amazing work, but everything is very young. So I like to talk to people out here in Cocle, and I have a guy, Tonchecho. I go to his finca, and he has cinnamon and vanilla and all of these things, and all of his plants, they have all medicinal uses. So let's go into the book dive. This is one. If you're interested in plants, it's super heavy. Very, very good information. Which one is your all favorite go-to book?
Well, before we go into that, I wanted to point out that there is I don't know if you've done this, there are these tours that the indigenous tribe, I think they're either the Guaymis or Chocoes that live by the Chagres. They're easy to get to, but you have to have like a tour. You have, it's a preparation, logistics of sort. Obviously, during this time, it's closed off, but once everything is open, I do definitely want to go. Where you travel upriver and you go to one of their, I think they're in Beira actually, and they have a tour where not only do they cook you food that's like very local from the river and it's on platano leaves and things like that. They have a specific tour where the local doctor takes you across the forest and shows you like we use this plant for this type of medicine and this plant for this and they point out different barks and flowers and things. And I definitely want to do that. And it was something that I almost did last year, like on my birthday, which is early March. I was like, no, I'll wait for later, and then everything happened, and so now I just have to wait. But definitely on my to do this because it's interesting to have somebody walk you through like just a forest and be like, we use this for reducing fever, and all of that is really the basis of what we know in pharmaceuticals anyway. So it's sort of like it's nice to see it in nature. Yeah, so I'll take you with me next time I go.
No, please, I want to go. Is
See.
it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Penicillin, isn't that the bark from the birch tree? I think that
It comes
or
from
was
a
this
mold.
aspirina or something. I'm most likely mixing it up.
I think penicillin comes from a type of mold.
We'll Google this.
Yes.
We read up on it, but everything is out there, and that is super interesting that we have that's how I feel. We got a little out of touch with what nature can give us actually, No, I mean, when
Yeah.
you're super sick, always go see the doctor, but check into that too, if you have a stomach bug or something, there's mastranto tea, for example, or mint tea.
Risola.
Exacto. So, there's so many things that we can first
rhubarb.
do, but always, of course, if it's super, super bad or what, you go to the doctor, no matter what, of course.
Yeah.
Now, we said that we were going to talk about books that you read in 2020. How do you go about which book you pick? How do you, how do you go about it?
Okay.
Because I know that you read a lot.
I do, and I love to read. It's definitely that type of. It's the most relaxing thing I can think of to do. And though last year was very stressful, I actually had. I have a goal every year where I read at least 52 books, and so the past couple of years, what I've been doing is I'll add one more. So if one year I read 54, the year after I'll read 55. For last year and the year before that, I read 52. At least I got to my one book a week for the entire year. So last year I read a lot of fairy tales. I read a lot of short stories, collections. I read a lot of stuff that were much more fantasy, which is, I mean, it more than like heavy stuff. It's kind of like an escape.
I was
like
just gonna ask. I wonder why.
Yeah, it's they're easy to read, and but I do like reading all of them. So I read around 57, 58 books last year, counting all sorts of books. I literally read everything that I can get my hands on, anything that's on sale. I have like a bunch of like this is just like a little bit of our collection. So I usually have like a number, and so for this year, what I decided to do, instead of doing a number, there are these fantastic reading challenges that I've been following for a bit. I have yet to complete one, but this year I chose one called the Book Riot Read Harder Challenge, and it has like around 24, 25 books, and they're the most random type of categories that you can think of, because it's not so much about number, it's about quality.
I was
know
going to
that-
ask because
yeah.
you practically, and we are going to post the link to that on our social medias later. So if you're interested in following the reading challenge, and my chicken is making lots of noise. That's okay. She puts eggs
That's a
usually in the
chicken?
morning. Yeah, that's the egg song. Sorry guys, by the way, for the interruption, but yeah, that's the egg song. And usually they're done by the morning, so I don't know if they're telling us like one more for the day.
Oh wow.
I don't think so. Maybe she just want to tell us something. Anyhow, so but that we're going to post the link of the reading challenge to the social media if you guys want to have a look into that. Now we're going to explain what it is. But this reading challenge would mean you would cut the amount of books you read annually in half, practically, right?
Almost. I mean, I
Almost.
could. It's not that I'm like, if I read more, that's fine. If I read something that's not on the list, I mean, it won't be that. At the same time, there are also some books that cover two categories. Like I think one of them was read a book that you find intimidating, and then another one was read a book that demystifies mental illness. And so I have one book that I'm actually currently reading that I started, like the prologue, that can fit both categories. So like it's like give or take 24.
Okay.
But then again, I could read something else that,
Well,
tickles my
because, but
fancy.
again, it falls into do something that doesn't stress you out,
Yeah.
So what we talked earlier on is pick something for this year where you're like, I have to read 50 books. If it's, less than that,
Yeah.
it's fine. If it's quality over quantity, right? So you're focusing on a different reading list that gives you more quality. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, last year, what I like to do is I like to challenge myself, and 52 books a year is a pretty high there. I'd say that it is a lot of pressure, but halfway through the year, like last year, I was like, I'm gonna do 40, and then like around February, I was like, no, 52. I'm gonna do 52, and by the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm missing 8 books, and so I had to read them really quickly, and pick.
But it wasn't
really
as
short ones.
fun, maybe.
Yeah, it was more like I have to reach my goal, because if not, I feel like I failed. So it's like, because it is my goal. So I made it a little bit over too. But yeah, so this year it's more of, I want to read books that they open horizons. They give you a different perspective. They different point of view. There was one I think there that said a book from a memoir from a trans author, and I have one on my to read list just like that. And so like things like that are very interesting because they give you a different view of a life, something that you could learn. And sometimes you'll find a book that you're like, I have to read this, and you don't like it, and it's fine. At least you went through it. But then sometimes
what do you
discover
do when you?
something,
Okay,
right?
this is for the audience because that's not just between you and I think a lot of people have that. Sometimes you open a book and after page 4, you're like, oh, will I ever get through it? Okay, you give it another 10 pages and it's still not. Do you finish them or do you put them aside?
So it depends. I'd say that, so the rules are, like, it's...
By the way, I'm going to have shisha de policía porque yo no tomo. Pero es
I
shisha
have
de
water
policía.
too.
Cheers.
I have my water too.
Cheers to everyone.
So I'd say that I like to finish books as much as I can, but when I am like 50%, 25 or 50%, and I don't care about the book, I don't care about the characters in the book, if the book is not giving me anything, I have other good books to read, and so I will sometimes just cancel them, like, no. But in Goodreads, when I track my books, because I have a yearly tracker, I'll put it like 1 star, couldn't finish, like, I'm done with it. But I don't want it to count for my reading goal, so there's like a little thing that I have to like assign to it so that it's not counted. But I am all for, if it's not good, forget it. Like, some books are just like a waste of your time. Don't read them.
Because again, the
What about you?
challenge is to read more, or not more, to read. You know, maybe the challenge is just to read, you know, and not to read and not enjoy it. And I try as well. I try. I give it a chance. I'll try reading at a different time of the day also, because maybe I was just tired at night. You know, it depends on which language I also read in. So then maybe I try it in the morning, or I give it a rest, I pick it up. But if I really cannot, after, like you say, after 25%, 50%, I cannot just not get into it, or I get anything out of it, I fold it. And I store it, and I'll make a note on it, and I'll be like, maybe I was also too young or in a different
Like maybe
mindset.
later.
Maybe later.
That is true. That is true. Well, there are some books that what I'll do is I'll just like I'll fast read through it just to like know the end, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. But that's like if I'm like 50-70% where I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm done with this book. But there are some books though that take like a chapter or two for you to really get into them. Sometimes it's a slow start, and so you have to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe it'll be good. Like one of my favorite books that happened to me where I read the sample on Kindle. It's just a couple of chapters, and I was like, yeah, this is boring, and I didn't want to read it. And then a friend of mine was like, you should read this. And she had a hardcover copy. And so I was like, oh, no, I tried. And it was boring. And she's like, no. You have to like finish that first chapter and then the story starts. And it has become like my most favorite book of my most favorite author. I've read all of his stuff now. Sí, se llama esto. Se llama The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
I hope, perfect. Okay, The Ocean at the End of the Lane. And that's Neil. Oh, perfect.
I don't know if it's
love
like
this.
backwards, but it's The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. It's dark fantasy. It's scary but beautiful. No, I love this book. It is my ultra. I have it in hardcover and in my Kindle, and I've read it like 3 or 4 times. It is so good.
I was gonna ask, do you go back to books that you really like? Do you go back to them? Like I have the ones that I really, really like. I read them once a year or every 2 years because it makes me feel good.
Yes. No, this book I've read, and every time I read it, I find something new. Yet there are other books that I've read, like I read Harry Potter books, like when I was younger, I would read them like super fast. And so I would sometimes go back and find new things. And I think it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, I read the number 4, which is my favorite one. It's like the one that has the wizard tournament, and it's all about like fighting and stuff. I read it, and it was the same exact movie in my head, like the same story. It was so like, wow, I remember this, like igualito, copy paste. And so sometimes it'll be a new experience, and sometimes it'll be like a treasured friend, like, oh wow, the same story. What about you?
Now, this just brings me to something that I would love to know. So you know, and the audience might not know that, or maybe you know that. I love theater. That is my favorite place on earth to be, like on stage and doing scripts and whatnot, or doing a lot of experimental things. Now, I would just love to see if you read a book, I read the book, and Henry reads the book, Joe reads the book, and whoever else, we have and then everybody just shares how they picture what is going on, how the character looks like.
Oh, it's
what the
always
character-
different. Totally.
So different. And I love that because, and this is going to be a side thing I'm going to quickly talk about. I used to do 4 in 48, and I think you remember that. 4 in 48 is, we have 4 groups in the theater. They have 48 hours to write a play, rehearse the play, come up with the costumes and the stage and the lights and everything. So you have 48 hours. We start at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and on Sunday, 5 p.m., each group has to present their piece at the theater. Now, everybody in the beginning, all groups, they get the same, it's called a stimulus. It could be, for example, this book. Or a glass of water or a painting. So everybody gets the same idea.
I think last time it was a
starting
poem, right?
The second time it was a poem. The first time it was a painting from an artist. And then all 4 plays are so different.
Yeah.
So I wish I could pick my friends' brains when we read the same books and just be like, hey, how do I guess that's what book clubs are for. I guess so. I don't know. I've never been in a book club, by the way.
Oh no.
Uh-uh.
I've tried, but the thing is, it's difficult because I like to read books that I choose, and so to be told to read a specific book, it's like
I have
homework.
the same.
Like,
That. And I
no.
think back, so I grew up in Germany, as you can hear from my accent. I grew up in Germany.
Wait, you speak German,
Yes.
French,
Yes,
Spanish, English,
oui,
and you can read Korean as well.
that is correct, yes.
Am I
Yes.
missing one? Like Italian, I think you like.
Well, I
were saying
do.
at one point.
So when you have English and French down, when you have Spanish and French down, and you use them quite a lot, then Italian and Portuguese is next door neighbor. Like you can understand. You read it. Like
So, like-
Portuguese, I read it. I understand 90%. I cannot speak
Wow.
it. Right. Italian, I would say 70%. So yeah, actually, I have a Korean book. Like that's my exercise book. But yeah, no, I love languages. For me, it has always been like that. I soak it up, and I feel like it's my doors to the world. That I have the
Yeah.
capacity that I can communicate with different people from different countries. I mean, a lot of people speak English, and Spanish, of course. But yeah, I love languages. And now, so what was I saying about? Wait, I lost.
I totally forgot too. But I wanted, I don't know, because I cut you off. I'm sorry. So I wanted to ask you, when you read books, when you read like, well, more fiction than anything, if because it has characters and things like that. But when you read books in general, do you do like, do you imagine everything, like the textures, the colors, the place, the books, the people, their face, like details, or do you? Is it like a haze?
No, it's everything is there. I could paint like detailed pictures of everything
Really?
that's there. Yes.
I have a
yes.
friend who does that, and she reads very slow, like on purpose, to look at every word and the meanings of things or whatever. And because I read so fast, for me, I skim a lot, and so the way I read is very blurry. Like people don't really have, it's not very defined. It's kind of like watercolor painting, and then you flip the page, and then you watercolor like that.
I
But
was
it's
just
very
gonna say,
interesting
if
because
we
you're a
would,
fast reader though.
I was just gonna say, if we would compare our imagination in art, then you would be the watercolor, and I would be like the ball pen.
Like super
the-
realistic, like yeah.
And I do read slower. I do that because I have, like your friend, I like to just. I just started this book here. By the way, guys, we're like flying through them, but we're gonna put the list of the books that we're talking
Oh yes,
about
we could do
on-
a post of all the books. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm reading. I started this, and this is one of my goals. I want to finish it. It's Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. Oh, you can
Atlas
read the fine
Shrugged.
print. Here we
Yes,
go.
it's on my to-read list.
Okay, I won't say a word then, but I'm reading it page by page. Super interesting how she writes, the details for me. I picture it. It's for me like how I painted in my, and I'm not going to say anything about the story because I understand you want to
I know a
read it.
little bit about it.
Yeah. How I paint it is like the Sin City style, where whenever she's with a train or she's in the city and it's raining and it's dark, it's more like Sin City style for me from the movie. And whenever she is somewhere else, then it gets different colors in there. So yeah, that's how I. But I'm very detailed. Maybe that's because I'm from theater, and when we read scripts, my homework as the actress is the moment that I read the script, I as the actress, I have to bring everything to the table, all the backstory. I need to
Like
imagine
the
it.
emotions behind it and why
I need
things
to
are said
imagine
and
the
done.
character, why the character is like that. What is the intention of the character? What's the action? What's the why of the character? What did his grandma do? What did her? I don't know. Like so. Maybe that's why where I come from on imagining things so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and as a stage manager, when I read the scripts, I'm thinking more of what needs to be done around it for that to happen.
That's so funny.
Like there's a
That makes
flashlight. Where's the
sense.
flashlight? What hand is the flash? Okay, does that have to be there if I need other like all of that? What happens around it is what I need to take care of.
Right. Oh no, but I'm super happy. That makes total sense though, because you scan through it on the practical side of the things, right? You're like, okay, have we done this? Now we have this. Where's this? Where's the prop? And and you time it. It's like stage manager, you time
Yes.
it. Like it took me a minute and 20 for this page. That's so cool. Now, this you need to let me know when you're done with the Atlas Shrugged, because we need to talk about
Yeah, I have it
this
on my
thing.
to-read list since forever. And the thing is, it's like a time travel / reincarnation / because it jumps around to different characters in different times, right? The funny thing that I noticed is either on Amazon or in Goodreads, because Amazon bought Goodreads, but it's like it's for reading and tracking and looking at books and things. One of those has a note that says from the publisher, like the sentence on page, I think it was like 47 or 17 or something, cuts off on purpose. It is not a typo, because on Kindle you can actually click and
wow.
say and send to Amazon, here's a typo or there's a mistake or a glitch or something, and they'll fix it with updates. And so they actually put something because it cuts off in the middle of a sentence, and I'm like, I wonder what that is. It's just like in the middle, and then it goes into somebody else, which is interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy reading on Kindle, on screen, on books? What's your favorite?
My favorite, I would say, I prefer books. They
Books.
belong to you. Yeah, like actual hard, like I like hardcover if they're not so heavy. But I don't mind paper. I don't mind like paperback. But when I read it before bed every night, and so it's kind of hard to be sleeping and be like with this open like on the side, and so it's easier for me to read with my Kindle because it's very tiny, and so I can have this, just kind of, and it has a night light which is very low. So I would say that I prefer reading like actual books, like paper books, during the day, and then at night my Kindle. But it really depends, because for me a story is a story. So if I find it physical or here, it's for me is the story. So the experience of reading it is the same for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Depends very much on what I read. Now, of course, if I have my Korean workbook, which I'm going to show you because I'm so happy it looks so nice.
Oh, but that's like an activity book where you write stuff out, right?
Yeah, so this is
Aw.
handbook. Yeah, so those are my workbooks. Of course, I write in them, so that does not work for me. I'm doing just to keep track or just to refresh my mind daily. I do Duolingo, but I cannot. For somehow my brain works like that. When I type with a teclado and I have the computer, I don't retain language as much as when I write it with hand on a piece of paper.
Oh.
It's very interesting. So it really depends on what kind of book I read. Workbooks that I have, for example, I give acting classes. So I have this one. This is my absolute workbook. It's called Stella, Adler, The Art of Acting. I recommend everybody read it, even if you're not an actor. Why am I looking up? I think always the audience is out there. It's so funny. The Art of Acting is a guide actually through life, not just for stage, but again, so I tried Kindle. I cannot write things down, and that's what I like. I like to make
That's
a
true.
note.
Well, you can like underline and save, but it's not the same. I mean, really, it's like it'll save to like a file, and like that's it. But it's not the same thing as like underlining and being able to go back and making notes. Yeah, it's totally different.
It's that, and I tried Kindle. I think it's great for traveling, for example.
Yes.
Like my brother's wife, she reads a lot, so she would just go. When I don't know, summer vacation, she actually, and I'm not lying, she has a second suitcase, used to have, with the books. With the
What?
books. in there. So since Kindle, now she's happy with that because it's one thing. She loads it all up there.
It's a
and then-
library. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah,
holds like
yeah.
5,000 books or something in here.
The first interesting thing I read, and I did that on purpose. I was like, okay, I'm going to try Kindle, and I loaded the Mozart's letters on there. I recommend also reading that. You don't need to know about classic music or his music. It's just this Mozart person writing back and forth to his Nanner, to his fiance, and other composers, and so you get a kind of like in kind of like a glimpse into his crazy wonderful brain. That one I loaded on the Kindle just because I wanted for me to use the Kindle, and read something that's really interests me. And I finished it, and I underlined a lot of things in there, so that's how I got to use the Kindle. But it's not my preferred, I have to say. I always will paperback, or hardcover, always.
Yeah, and it's
'Cause I
actually
like-
like you own it too. Like you own the book itself, but when you buy it from Amazon, it actually lives on their server. Like you don't own the copy of it. So there is a different. It's sort of like you're paying to have it on your Kindle, but you don't really own it at the end of the day. So it is better to have the physical copy, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, at the end, everybody finds out what works for them again. I know Henry, he reads a lot too. He reads a lot on his phone. That's something that I cannot do because I work a
No, I
lot
can't do that
during the
either.
day on screen, online. I can literally, like, my eyes don't want to have more screen time at the end of the day. So that's a no-go for me.
That's true. And it's very
Yeah.
bright too. Like phones and tablets have a different light than the Kindle I have. It has a very specific backlight so that you can read it in the dark, literally, where it's just like very light, and it doesn't irritate. It's like a blue
That's
light
very
almost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very
Highly
neat.
See, I would recommend that for people who want to read at night, but not like tablets because they're so bright. Like they will keep you awake, basically,
Yeah.
and that's not.
I mean,
good.
there's dark mode, right? Dark mode kind of apparently is like easier
well
on your
better
eyes.
if you have that. Better,
Better?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Now,
like yellow. I
do
think.
you let's say you have a paperback or a book, how we call it, a book. I remember my mother when she taught me. She read a lot to me as a child, and I think maybe that's why I started reading myself when I was a child, because she actually took the time out, and she started reading to me. That was kindergarten, elementary school. Then I had a phase where I didn't want to read at all, like at all.
Really?
Yes, like as a teen, no. The teenager me was not up for reading. Maybe because I had a hard time at school. I didn't really like school. Maybe that, I don't know. But my mother always told me, do not, under no circumstances do you make, I don't know how you
Oh
call those.
no, that's treacherous. So no se hace.
She
no.
was like, under no circumstances do you
No
ever,
circumstances, no.
we call it Eselsohr in German, which means donkey ear. I don't know, we call it a donkey
Where you
ear,
like
so-
bookmark the page. I mean,
Where
it
you
really
exactly,
doesn't do
like-
anything to it. I mean, it's like, it as long as you don't like rip it or things like that, like it should be fine. But for me, it's like I love bookmarks anyways, and so for me, it makes sense to like not do that. And if I ever loan out a book, which I really don't like doing because not for you, but for me, I expect it to be read in like 3 days. Give it back to me in pristine condition. Did you finish it? Did you finish it? Did you finish it? Like, so
Like,
lending.
what happened?
Yeah. I read it in 3 days. What, you're taking 2 months? No, for me, I get very stressed out. Like, where's my book? And so I really don't like lending things out, but I sometimes do. And when I do, it's like, please don't fold the pages. Please
Yeah.
don't drop it in water. Please don't. And if you do,
Yes.
you're gonna bring me a new one because it's like,
Yeah.
it's my book.
Yeah.
I actually
I have-
I don't have I don't have an example here with me, but I have, my books have like a white mark. What do you call this? I don't think you can see it there, but it's a watermark that says
Oh,
property
watermark.
of Kelly Walsh.
No,
And
that's good though.
And I have a library card, and I don't have it on the books that are here, but it's literally a card that you take out and you write like who took it. So the
Now,
books
Lingy, no, but oh no, Kelly froze. If I'm also frozen, maybe you can send us some comments right now, audience members, if you're still there. I have no eyes. Okay, I promised that I would do this show if I don't have to press any buttons. And it's just me speaking now. All right, I'll see if I can get any help. Kelly, are you back?
Yes, I am back.
Okay, you're back. Okay, great. I don't know what I missed. The last thing you said that you have practically your own library, right? So you
I
have
do.
a stamp and you do.
So I have this.
This is so good. That is so good. Yeah.
So it's like for the return date, my personal library. Like, oh, it's so fun.
No, here's the thing though, and again, whoever is left in the audience and whoever knows me, I am so sorry if I said ever no that I do not lend my books because of two things. I have really had books not returned to me. It is so hard to get books in Panama. Like they have a variety, Hombre de la Mancha, etcétera, pero no tampoco siempre tienen de todo, ¿no? So you order outside, and ordering outside is expensive because you have to bring it in,
heavy.
and
Yeah.
they are heavy, exactly. So I lost a one of my favorite authors is Haruki Murakami. He's a Japanese author. It's 1Q84, so whoever has it, 1Q84 out there, please bring it back to me, please. I miss it. It's that was the author I told you that he took me on a complete music trip because he writes fiction, fantasy, all of that, beautiful, and he includes a lot of music. There's a guy driving around, town, and he always listens to this and this symphony. So I went and looked up the composer and the symphony, and then it took me triple the time to finish the book because I went on a music travel, like on that.
Yes.
But this again is what reading books do. It opens your horizon. I got super interested in Japanese culture, in their food, because he does two things. He writes the story, the characters. All the characters take care of the food, and how they prepare the food is so nice to read, and it makes you like, I'm going to take
I
care of
heard
the
that he
food
does
too.
a lot of like parallel universes and like dark fantasy, but they're like hints of it. It's not like full in your face. It's like hints of.
Yeah, so you're in
it's
the
very
real...
like more realistic, and then all of us like little bubbles of like dark fantasy sort of thing. Right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
By the way,
It's,
we have a shout out for Aquilino.
Aquilino.
Says thank you for your
Aquilino.
comments. Apparently, he has a book stamp. Is that what you said? Books on his what?
His mom.
His mom has a book stamp.
Nice. I love that. I should make
Classy.
myself
Were you like?
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Aquilino. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for my assistant too for the.
I know, right? Like there's papers floating in. I got a message too, talking about notes. All right, this. I hope you can see. Can you see it? It says, what does it say? Read me.
Kind of blurry. Oh, is this read me?
Read me with a heart. So this I had placed. By the way, the book is Catherine the Great, and it's written by Henry Troyat.
Oh, I think I read that one, or I might have read one that's similar.
So good. And it looks bad. Yeah, I got it from the Elks Club. If
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
lying, because they had like books on the table, their old ones. So I grabbed this one in exchange, of course, for another one. So that's what I left one, you take one. The American Society is also doing book exchanges I forgot when. I think every third Saturday of each month, and I think, of course, at the
Really?
moment they're not. Yes, that's where I got a lot of books, but of course not at the moment because
Yeah.
the thing we don't want to talk about in this show, like Corona and whatnot. But yeah, so talking about notes and stamps and whatnot, I had placed this note on the book, and I set it on Henry's nightstand, and it's waiting there to be read because I think Catherine the Great, for one, is a super interesting character. She is so known for all her lovers, and I'm always like, I don't care how many lovers this woman had. It's always that, it's like, oh, but she had so many lovers. I'm like, so what? It's like,
Yes.
she did.
Her story is very interesting.
Super interesting. Like,
Because
super
she wasn't
interesting.
she was the queen of Russia, right?
The Empress, the Empress of Russia.
She was the Empress of Russia, but she wasn't Russian. she
Exactly,
became
German.
Russian.
She was German,
Yeah.
and then she became Russian. Exactly.
She was married into the family, and her husband, who was at that moment like the heir to the throne, he became a king, and he was kind of like nobody liked him. He did whatever. He was kind of brat, and how she rose to the occasion, and basically like kind of like
She
it's a
took
really
over.
interesting story. Yes, it is really nice.
She
Very
took over.
feminist,
She
very
made-
powerful.
So powerful, and she made Russian into her first language practically. She was so fluent. I'm getting pointed at. Hold on one second. I honestly can't do two things at the same time. I'm going
Me
to be
neither.
super honest.
Joe keeps writing notes to
That's
me.
good,
Like,
okay.
what?
Shout out to no first thing, penicillin, mold, aspirina, birch bark. Okay, so sorry, we're
So we got that
jumping an
right.
hour back to our medicine talk.
We got that
So
right though.
aspirina is birch. No, I said it the other way around. I was like penicillin is birch bark, but it's not. So penicillin is the mold, which you said exactly, and then aspirina is the birch bark. Now, Arturo Villarreal loves the topic today. He's a teacher of guitar and piano, says there are some great documentaries on meditation on Netflix. That is true.
Oh yeah, there's
Kelly,
a
do
new
you
one that just
allow
came
me
out.
to quickly jump into that? And thank you, Henry, for pointing that out.
Yeah.
There is a very, very interesting Netflix documentary on Vipassana, the meditation technique that I follow. They started doing it in prisons. So they started introducing, yes, and it's so interesting. Of course, right now, because this comment just caught me off guard. I don't remember the title right now, but it is Meditation Introduction into Prisons in the USA. And they taught it, and they started meditating. Then they started meditating willingly and on their own in their cells, and it reduced the ¿cómo se dice? Como like their
Like the stress, the
behavior from
anxiety.
from being on the defense very fast, offense very fast, or attacking other cellmates or whatnot or inmates. It really reduced how they deal with stress, anxiety, PTSD, and whatnot. So, shout out again to meditation. Gracias, Arturo. Great comment. Absolutely, yeah, going back to meditation, super recommended, and it worked. Unfortunately, I don't know why they took that out of the prison. They introduced it, and then they didn't finance it, or I don't know what happened there. But it showed results. Jumping to the next comment, Matt Dreckman says the chickens made him laugh. What, us, or the chickens in the garden?
Because they were cawing.
Allison Patrick says, I can hear you. Thank you. I cannot hear you. I'm sorry. Aquilina has been commenting nonstop. Thank you. All right. I think I'm done with
By the way,
reading.
Aquilino and his wife have like this really cool store that we just got T-shirts from. So next time we'll wear those
that's
T-shirts. What is it called? The Happy Introverts.
The Happy
highly
Introverts.
recommend it
Yes,
too.
I
See.
love the store. Great T-shirts.
It has a great variety of T-shirts, which we loved.
That's awesome.
So shout out to Aquilino.
Aquilino, thank you. I'm having a big mess on my desk right now. If you have any book that you would like to show that you
I do.
read, that you want to go back to, or that you have planned on reading for
I do.
2021, please let us know.
So I took, I have some on my Kindle, but the ones that I physically have are, the one that's right here is called The Time Traveler's Wife. And it's a time travel book about, it's about a time traveler's wife. Basically, it's the guy, he, like, throughout the story, he's diagnosed with chronodysplasia, which means he's out of time. He's displaced in time. And so the story goes, her timeline is straight, but his timeline is he meets her when she's younger, and then they meet later on, but he doesn't know her at that moment, and it's like he jumps around. And the story is beautiful, Karina. O sea, this is like, I think the only book that has made me cry in public. I was reading it on a plane, and I was sitting next to a lady, like, like, it was really funny. She was like, the plane was landing, and I was just like hysterical. Like, it's obviously, it's a tragic story, but it's beautiful. It's very artsy, and I love time travel. Time travel is one of my favorite sci-fis to read, and I read like all sorts of time travel. It's really interesting how some stories do that. I don't know, do you like to read time travel or sci-fi?
I do, because it takes me to I don't know, a lot of different places and different like places that don't really exist in the real world. So it's all that I really like, you know, when the writer has that much imagination. I'm so big on imagination, and I love, you know, when it takes me to those places and or back and
Yes.
forth, or you know, like, because I think us humans, we are so how should I say, like we always kind of have this like, oh, if I could only go back in time, and if I could change so and so, or if I could,
Yes.
no, I think it's very natural to us. I think it's called nostalgia, also the word in Spanish. When you think about the past, and but you know you can't change
See.
it, or you really would like to go back, or you're looking forward to something, because if the past would have changed and the future is changing, so I think it
I
has
love
always,
all of those time theories where, like, if you could go back, what would happen, sort of thing. And then there's different theories, and so the books obviously have to choose one of them for it to
Right.
be part of that. What are the rules, right? So there's different rules for time travel, but I think like the reason we, and this is just me, the reason we are fascinated by it is because imagine going back and changing the course of history by removing somebody, somebody horrible. And they usually, like, most of the time travel books, there's one right behind me that goes back to kill Hitler and how everything changes.
oh God, I wish.
There's
Can we
another
make
one
that
that
happen?
goes-
Yes, can we make that happen? I would
But
be
see,
the
here's the
happiest
thing,
person
though.
alive.
But the time travel, I know, right? But the time travel is that if you go back to change the past, then the future that you came from never started. And so either two things happen. You either create a new timeline, or you create an ironic conundrum, because that means that there's no reason for you to go back. Therefore, you never really go back. And then it becomes a loop in the
Oh
universe
my God!
where
Wow, my
Yeah.
mind was just.
I know, it is fascinating because it's also like the grandfather. There's a rule called the grandfather rule or something, where you cannot go back to kill your grandfather, because that means that you would never be
I
born.
heard-
That means that
yeah.
you never went back to kill him, but so you would be born, but then you would go back, and so it becomes that.
Right.
Um,
Here's the thing, and I'm gonna
Fascinating.
let's just pick that, because I said, like, yeah, let's kill Hitler. I mean, for me, that would have been the best thing ever, you know, seriously, because I come from Germany, and that history is the darkest for myself that I still
Yeah.
carry on my shoulders. And people are like, why, you had no part? I'm like, I'm German.
But it defined
This-
culture, right?
It does. It defined culture. It defines on how you travel in the world, because you are German. And so a lot of times, even though, of course, it has been so many years ago that this monster was in charge, you know, but you always, as a German, it will come to that topic eventually, you know. For some reason, it depends where people are from. A lot of people from the United States of America, they really are interested in World War II. And I have to talk about this, you know, and it's fine. I like to inform, you know. But if we would time travel and actually kill Hitler in early days, then most likely I also wouldn't be here, because the story of my grandfather, he was sent to fight in Russia, in Siberia, right? And they had him captured. So the war ended in 49, but he came 45. He came home in 49. So he came home super late. And my grandmother, and that is a super interesting story, or sad, or however you want to put it, she went to the train station for 5 years every day
Aw,
to see if he came back alive or dead, right?
Aw.
So, you know, it's a hard, and it's a very touchy story, or it's you know, but if that, and then finally they made my dad, okay,
Aw.
when he came back. So, and then so my dad made me, and so on and so on. But yeah, so most likely if Hitler would have gone a different way, or he would have been decapitated super early on or whatnot, you know, things would have been different.
Yeah,
But I
and
still
so
wish they would
and that's
have
why
been
the theory in time travel means that do you create a new timeline, and so then when that time traveler goes back to their time, then it continues because of what they did, or does it become that new reality? And so there's these different rules that, you know, authors need to pick, because right now we don't know really what would happen. Supposedly right now the universe is expanding, and I love reading about the cosmos and things like that. And so time travel, when you read Stephen Hawking, and when you read Neil deGrasse Tyson, they
Oh my
talk
God,
about
I love this guy.
I know. I have like so many books from him that I've read too. They talk about the Big Bang, and how after the Big Bang the universe is still expanding, and they can tell that because of radio waves and stuff like that. At some point, and this is like in a Google amount of years, which is like billions and billions and billions and billions and billions. Google is actually like a number, like a Google amount of years. It's enormous. the universe is going to stop because there's going to be so much pressure, so much gravitational pull that it's going to stop and then it's going to cave in, right? So it's either going to be, there's actually two, well, it's called either the big crunch, or it starts all over again and then it all crunches. And so supposedly this has been happening for like all eternity. Or what could happen is actually the worst that could happen is it just keeps expanding forever and ever, and all the suns will die, and it'll just be a vast empty nothing. So hopefully the big crunch will happen, and then we get to restart it all again, and it all gets like. But what's
the
really
thing
funny
is,
and this is science. Like, yeah, so that's the theory of when it's the big crunch, will time go backwards? Probably not. But like it's one of those theories. Like, will it be going backwards, or will we be going forward? But then time backward. Like, what does that mean? It's all theory, obviously, because nobody really.
Of course.
We're never going to see that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're not
I
going
was
to
just
see that.
going to say that.
But what's really funny is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy starts with a very small prologue that says that the universe is so confusing and so chaotic that but it's a miracle, or it has something where like if somebody finally figures out what the universe is, it'll rearrange itself to something even more crazy and confusing. And then a post data note, like PD, it says like, and it's rumored that this has already happened.
Oh,
or
wow.
something like that. So it's like it could be like the Big Bang,
That
and the
we
Big
are
Crunch,
already.
because it's crazy.
We will not find out, but we can always talk about it. And I love that. It's I had no words. We were changing the years, right? 2020 to 2021, and I had no words, and I honestly was like, I didn't say Happy New Year to anyone because I just again, it's really not important for me, and I fell off with that. But so I posted something, and it said, first, we are in space. Second,
Yes.
nobody knows what's going on. Third, I love you. And that's about it.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
beautiful.
I think that really brought everything, all my feelings and whatever's going on, to the point. Because we don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, to be honest. And I know we're going on a complete different thing right now, but a lot of time, that's fine. But a lot of times we take ourselves so serious and so important and so, of course, let there be anger and be upset and all that, but we don't really know what's going on. And kind of like, it helps get through the day sometimes, like a lot of people
Yeah.
don't have anything figured out.
Well, and I think that's like the key, and I've read this actually in several books, like little pieces and things like that, where it's sort of like in Ocean at the End of the Lane, there's a quote that says that there are no adults in the world, we're all just children inside. So it kind of makes sense, because it's like at my age, I thought, like when I was younger, and I would think of my older sisters or adults, and they knew what they were doing, and really nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows what's happening. Everyone's just trying to figure it out day by
Still.
day, doing their own stuff, and I think
Yeah.
it's just having patience with people, and
Yeah, I think
and
it's
there's
kind
a
of
lot
calming
of-
though to see that.
Yeah.
When you finally see like, hey, my parents, they have not figured it out, or or whoever is closest to you and older that you kind of take as a role model. It doesn't always have to be the parent. They
Yeah.
don't. They take
well, I
it.
also think it's like there is no one answer, right? To like a lot of people go their entire life trying to find purpose and what they're supposed to be doing, and what's the meaning of this, and there is no one answer. And so like every story or every book, whether it be science, whether it be about the cosmos, whether it be sci-fi or fantasy, it's always like every person has their own thing, right? Which is kind of like what we were talking about with meditation. Like you have to figure out what works for you, and that answer is for everything. So
Yeah.
like
Yes.
if you're stressed out about what's happening, or if you're stressed out, about work or whatever, then do something about it, but do something that works for you, which I think is really important to
Yeah.
figure out what works for others, what works for you, right?
Yeah, and that goes also into comparing. Stop comparing yourself. That's always what I'm saying. Like, don't compare because it works for X persona doesn't mean that it works for me, and then,
Yeah.
but we always see that. We've been presented with so many possibilities. You need to figure out what works for you best, but try it. Try it, figure it out, try it. Don't stop and just be
Yeah.
like, it doesn't work for me. No, if it doesn't work for you, okay, you feel bad for some time, for 2 days, 3 days, I don't know. As long as you get out of it, as long as
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of people forget to like trial and error is okay as long as you learn from it and you keep going, because a lot of people, what happens is, and I've seen this, where they'll have something like let's say someone's hungry and they're like, I'm hungry. Okay, but what are you gonna do about it? Like, go and try. Oh, I don't know how to cook. Okay, well, make yourself a hot dog and it gets burned. Okay, well, next time try it again and do something different. Or if you have something like, say you have like an astilla, like a piece of wood stuck in your skin or whatever, do something about it. It's not gonna go away by itself. You have to do something about it, and so you have to try different things to make it work.
It's true.
And same for positive things. You want to include something positive in your life. Like, I would like to work out more. I like to go outside more, and that means I have to make it easier for myself to do that. But what works for you might not work for me, or maybe it will. Like, ask questions like that. So it's really about trying to figure it out, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because we're talking about the parallel universes and all of that, or time travel, have you read Haruki Murakami? Have you?
I have to confess that I cannot read him.
Oh wow, that's interesting. No, that's fine. Again,
so I tried to read one.
We're not here to trash books, Like
I know. So like, but very few. Like, but I've tried to read several books of his, and I just can't get past a couple of chapters.
That's interesting.
But everyone that I know loves this author, and I'm just like, I can't. But I've read other books from Japanese authors, which I do like. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the way he writes. It's just not my style. But from what I've read about his books, they're very interesting. I just can't read them.
They are. It took me also time to get into like the first one that I was like, what? That's weird. What is going on?
Yeah.
But the first one didn't help me because of the music trip that he took me on. The second one is Kafka on the Shore, and maybe if you want to go back to him, I don't know if you've tried reading that one. It's a thinner book. It's not long. It's a couple of 100 pages. Kafka on the Shore is not as crazy as 1Q84. 1Q84 is
I think that book is very reminiscing. He's like reminiscing about something. It's like a person that's traveling and like thinking about, like they have memories or something. I think I tried to read it.
Which one?
Kafka on the Shore and 1Q84.
Yeah, Kafka on the Shore. Maybe if you want to try it again, just because it takes place in a library, and I think that would be super cool for you to explore that a little more, because he dives into all these Japanese authors and writers and whatnot. So
no, then I don't think I've read that one. I forgot which one it was.
We will find out.
Yeah, I have to read it. But what's really funny is that like I will try to read anything that is either interesting, comes up on lists. I'll find things that are random, and so that's why I like that my challenge is going to be very random this year. A lot of different things that I might not have picked up by myself. But like for instance, I've tried to read Swedish authors, but of course I don't read Swedish. I'm not fluent in it, nor can I read it. So I read it in English or Spanish. I cannot those. I don't know if it's like lost in translation, Karina. I don't know, but it's like I'm reading the books and I'm like, ugh, like I just can't. They're so boring. And I think it's lost in translation maybe, or just they're very dry. I read one about vampires. I just could not finish it. Like I finished it, but I was like, it was like going through mud. Another one about the 100-year-old man goes out the window. Very interesting story. No, like it's just terrible. And then I forgot the third one, the Millennium Trilogy. The first one, which is the girl with the dragon tattoo, also Swedish author. Just so dry.
So question. So let's talk about the languages and where the book comes from. You can definitely, like Haruki Murakami, again, of course, comes from Japanese. I bet that there is so much lost in translation. I bet.
Most likely.
I don't speak Japanese yet, so I cannot read it.
Yeah.
It's not on my list either to learn the language. Not anytime soon. What is your preferred language to read in? Or does it depend who writes it?
I prefer, I like reading English and Spanish. I don't mind reading either of two. And I've read English authors like Stephen King in Spanish. And for me, it's the same. Like I read the story and it's fine. I've read,
and that might have been a good translator doing the translation of the book.
Yeah, and like, and so it depended because my mom, she read a lot of like horror and witchcraft and dark things. And so most of the books at my mom's house, at my parents' house are like very dark and like, demons stuff. I don't know, that's what she likes. And so I'm into that too. But, so most of her stuff is in Spanish. And so I read a lot of Stephen King in Spanish. But I remember it in English. And so like the story is the same. I read a lot of English that's translated from other languages. I read Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I can't read him in Spanish. I have to read him in English. And some people might find that heinous, because like you're supposed to read them in the original language if you can. but some authors just don't work well. I don't know if that's happened to you. And
Yes.
so I read him in English, and I have read like so many books of his. They're fascinating, but only in English.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah. For me, it depends very much on how my brain is at the moment when I read the book, honestly. Like when I'm tired, I read in English for some reason. I don't even read in German when I'm tired because English is the easiest language.
Really?
Yes, because from the grammar. Not the words, not the words. There's words that I might not know, but from the context, you will always get it. But the grammar in English is so easy for me. Okay, all I'm saying, of course, is from my point of view. So I read English when I'm tired or like, I want a quick read, I read it in English. Of course, I'm not reading a science article or study, then that is something else also, right? But
Yeah.
German, for example, I like to read it, but it has to be it cannot be translated for me. Because I will feel it. I know, like this is a German book. It was written by a German, and they translate it. Germans like to do those long sentences over 2 pages.
And,
like
and the words are
"Aw."
like,
And the words are long, and only at the end of a sentence you know what's actually going, because we have the ability to split the verbs in 2 pieces and then
oh,
put
wow.
the second part of the verb at the end, and only at the end of the sentence you will actually know what's going on. Now, poor translators, I'm so sorry. I don't like reading translated books from German into any other language, so I read German authors. But then I read this book, Das Rosi-Projekt, which is actually from an Australian author, I think, if I'm not lying. I cannot even pronounce his name, I'm so sorry.
But can you read books from other languages in German?
Yes, that's no problem. Can you read that?
No. No,
Okay.
because it's backwards.
It's backwards. Grammy Simsion, Simsion. That's his last name. That was translated from English to German. Did not like it. I could not read the German. It was they tried too hard with the German language. They tried too hard to make the long German sentences into short sentences to make it like pop and flow and just doesn't work with my language, I felt.
And it didn't read well.
It didn't read well. I finished it, but okay, but then I do read Spanish also, English and French. Yeah, that's what I do.
It's amazing. What I like about languages is that there are words in other languages that explain feelings or emotions or like moments that in other languages you have to explain, like in a sentence, like you have to explain the situation. Por ejemplo, for instance, in Spanish, in Spanish, there's a word that when translated into English, or like if you look up the translation, it says overly sweet, but that's not exactly what it means. I can't remember what the word is when
It's
empalagado.
Empalagado.
So when someone is empalagado, like if you say that in Spanish, it means that I am like, it's too much. And it could be actually something vinegary, it could be something salty. Estoy empalagada. Like I'm done with it, I don't want to eat anymore. It's usually related to food, but it can still be applied to even people. It could be applied to music. It could be applied to different things where you're just like, no, I'm done with it. Like I've reached my
It's like
limit
saturated.
with it. Yes, I'm saturated with it. But in English, there's no word specific for that. So when I try to explain to somebody, no, I am empalagada, it's like, no, I'm
yeah, some things you can't. Some things, yeah.
What is that?
You can't translate something.
And like there's a Portuguese word that I remember somebody had named their like beach house or something called saudade. I think it was saudade. That meant that one place and time that you are nostalgic for but you cannot visit. Something like that. And I was like, wow, like it was like the whole word meant that feeling. Which I think a lot of people can relate to. It just doesn't exist and it's a Portuguese word, so it doesn't exist in English or Spanish. But you can explain it in like a sentence. And one of my favorite German words, I remember I asked you about it and you were like, no, that's not what it means. I'm like, but isn't that what it means? And you were like, no. Schadenfreude. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, because I think it's hilarious when something bad happens to somebody and you're like, ha, like you're happy about it. right?
Yeah.
My favorite German word.
Schadenfreude is I don't think there's a
Schadenfreude.
I don't think there's a good job.
Oh.
I don't think there's a translation for it. I don't think so. Porque I
Not a specific word, but the feeling, you're like, I can relate to
the feeling, yes. The feeling, yes. Like you te ríes de alguien, no? Like when something happens to them. So
Yes.
it's not nice to do, by the way. Yeah, to have Schadenfreude is not a nice thing to have. It happens now and then, of course. You know.
Yes.
Like what I like in Spanish is the word pena ajena.
Pena ajena. Yes, I have not been able to translate that into English. Where I'm like, I'm
Like,
embarrassed
I know-
for this person.
Exactly. Like I know in German, because German again has the ability we can just like add two nouns together and doo we have a new word, right?
Really?
So you can just like add them, ding, 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 and then you have a new word. Which means like in Benajena, por ejemplo, it would be Fremdschämen, which is I feel sorry for that person that I don't know, right? Or I feel
Oh.
sorry for the action of the person that I know, right?
It's the
Me da
opposite
pena.
of Schadenfreude.
Yes, exactly.
Practically.
Practically, yeah. When you have pena ajena or you have Fremdschämen, you actually feel sorry for the person. When you have Fremdschämen, you make fun of them. So when you make a Schadenfreude, you make fun of them. How is our dear audience? Are you keeping up with us? We are jumping
I know, we're
around
going so
from
fast. Do we have any
books
shout outs?
to
Asking my assistant.
languages. Dear audience, how do you learn different languages? What is your approach?
You
What
know,
is your
Joe's been
approach?
doing Duolingo for these past couple of days, and it's really funny to hear him. He's been trying Arab. He's been
Nice.
trying, Árabe, Italian, Scottish Gaelic.
Nice.
And it sounds kind of German because at one point he was saying "hallo," and I was like, "Oh, are you practicing German?" And he was like, "No, Scottish Gaelic." I was like, "Wow, very, very similar."
You know, with German, it's funny. I was on the phone with my mother years ago, and I was here in Panama, and a friend of mine, she turns around and she's like, "You sound kind of nice." I'm like, "What do you mean?"
You sound nice.
I'm like, yeah, I don't always scream at my mother when we speak, you know, like we have a normal conversation. She's like, yeah, I thought you always sound like, and I'm like, no, like we might. There's certain words and constellations of the consonants, you know, then it sounds very guttural and harsh, but not all the time.
I think it's the tone that you guys talk to each other, right? That
Yeah,
when you talk to your mom, that it makes sense. Like you're not like rah, 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 rah. It's just you're sweeter, right?
Yeah.
the
Oh,
tone.
I have a funny story to tell about being lost in translation, especially when you have like a relation and you don't speak the same language. Like Henry and I, right? Like my English is fluent, but even sometimes I just, you know, especially when I'm tired, most likely when I'm tired, and sometimes the brain just, you know, doesn't really,
Yes.
you know.
The
So we were lost in
translation.
translation, and he always, and that is a very interesting thing. English speakers, I think they just use it. They say, "I think we should do that," right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we should paint the wall green. I think we should go on a hike. And in German, you don't say "I think." We just do it.
Or you just say it like, "Let's go on a hike."
Exactly.
It's like tacito. It's like written already that that's what you're
Exactly.
thinking.
And I was always like, okay, let's think about it, you know? Let's think about it for an hour. Let's think about it for 5 more hours. And I was like, why isn't he moving? He's like, you know, what's going on? And so finally we figured out when he says, I think, you know, it translates to actually doing it, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was always like, yeah, okay, now do we have to think about this a little more? Because in German you take out the think and you kind of just do it, you know. So we were
Yeah.
lost in translation. It was hilarious. We cracked up, you know, like big time. We were like laughing so much about it. And And that happens with false friends too, and our shopping list has like all 3 languages on there now, so it's a whole, sometimes he chats me, he goes to the super, he's like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, I'm sorry, I wrote it down in German. But he was doing so well. He also did the Duolingo. He had, he started to, practice his German just to keep up with it. So yeah.
Does he have good conversation skills in German?
He understands because English and German are kind of there, so you can take a lot of English. When you listen, when you train your ear, you can. Depends on what
Get
it's being
around.
taught, but
Like if you were
you
to
can-
visit Germany, he could visit.
Oh yeah, he understands. Like when we're at my parents, and then we talk in German because sometimes it's just faster and easier. He kind of understands what's going on, And then another fun thing, and I know we're going everywhere right now, but that's
I know,
fine.
and I do have a shout out. So after that, I'm going to do the
Okay,
shout out.
after this story, we do shout out. Another fun thing, like costumbres, no? Like we in Germany, that's very recent that we high five. We usually don't high five. That is something I think that came in the 90s, 80s, 90s, like we started the high five thing.
Really?
Older generations don't know what high five.
So you're like, Grandma. And your grandma's like,
But not me. No, we were sitting on the table, and then my dad and Henry, they had a conversation, and then Henry was like, high five, and my dad just like
just left him
looked at
hanging.
just left him hanging, and
Just
I
like,
knew what
yeah.
was going on, and
So that's funny because he was lost in translation. I mean, by culture, it was like your dad was like,
yeah, my dad
Okay.
just looked at the hand, but not knowing, just was like,
What to do?
He kept eating, then he went.
"Oh, poor HB."
I was like, but se entiende everything. I always like, todo se entiende, hay que hablar, no? Like, you have to
Yeah.
talk about things. So that's key in everything, again, communication, right?
That is funny. Well, for Joe and me, what we do is we speak Spanglish, but like hardcore.
I wanted
like
to
it's a
ask
very
about-
bad habit because I forget that other people don't switch back and forth that fast, and so I'll be talking de la nada meto something else, and then it's like, hey, can you take out the laundry? And then, oh yeah, tienes que hablar, and I'm just like, and he keeps up with me because he's super bilingual as well. My sister's bilingual, my family's bilingual. My mom is not really bilingual, but she understands English very well. Her spoken English is very choppy. Most of
mom
my
too.
friends, right? It's more like her native language is Spanish, and so I speak to more in Spanish. But my dad, my friends, family, like it's all English, but super Spanglish. So it's very difficult for me to speak to people only in English because out of nowhere I'll be like, I
You're doing
see.
a good job today, though.
Yeah.
Like when we prepped for the show, we were going
Trying.
back and forth like Spanglish. We're like, dun, 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 dun,
Trying,
dun.
I'm trying. Because I know you speak English and Spanish, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, if I know that, then I feel like, oh, I can do this. But I know if someone doesn't speak English or doesn't speak Spanish, yes, it'll be 100% because, I mean, it'll be ridiculous for me to be like, hey, ¿cómo estás?
To exclude
Like,
them,
no, it
exactly,
doesn't, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Do
they
your
don't
shout
get it.
out before we forget. Aquilino,
Right.
shout out.
So Aquilino says that he tried Japanese. So
Nice.
if I don't know if he's learned Japanese. It says he tried. We have to see
Okay.
if he actually was successful in it. Your goal, Aquilino, this year is to learn to read Japanese.
That is so nice. Well, keep
That's
us
what I'm gonna give
posted
to
on your progress because the
Yes.
idea is that Joe and Henry don't know about. We're gonna take over the whole year. No, just kidding. Imagine-
Joe's like,
imagine-
what?
Like what happened? Okay, now I wanted to again jump into. We've been on all directions now, which I love because I just, that's how our brains work. I think it's our brains don't always just go into this one direction. The brain has in a massive speed. All these connections, all these neurons just being like, ding, 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 new idea,
Yeah.
new idea, what's now? I want to go still back to the reading challenge, and please explain us to the audience, what is this year's reading challenge? So what are the titles? How does it work? How do you
Okay.
start? How do you pick the book you start with? Do they tell you, etc., etc.?
So every year there are these two websites that have these reading challenges. There are others, but these are the two main ones that are very popular. One is called Book Riot, and the other one is called Pop Sugar. My favorite is Book Riot. I follow them on all sorts of social media. I love all their posts. They're super, like their articles. They write so many things. Pop Sugar, I'm not really into that website, but the reading challenge is really good. So the reading challenges have a certain number of books. I think for this year it's 24-25 for Book Riot, and the Pop Sugar one has a little bit more. And it doesn't really tell you what book to read, but it gives you kind of like a guide where it says find a book with a purple cover. And sometimes it's random like that, and then other times it's really to expand your knowledge on a certain area. For instance, it'll say read a political memoir, or something so specific that you're like, how am I gonna find this book? One is like read a young adult novel of an LGBTQ positive with a person of color author.
Yeah, what do
And
you
you're like,
find? Yeah.
So like, where do you find this? Some of those I'll go through and I'm like, oh, I have this on my to read list, or I have this pending, and so I'll write them in. But you can't check them off until you finish them.
Okay.
There
and
are
it's online?
websites.
You do that online?
No, you can download them. So
Okay.
you can download the PDF and write it in. You can print it out. And actually, the Book Riot one, if you fill it in and send it in, you get 10% off on their store or something. So hopefully this year I'll get like socks or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, yes, because books are
Yes.
expensive.
But they actually have like book related things. So like a candle, or like a beautiful, they have this really cute necklace that I've been wanting for a really long time. It's Alice in Wonderland falling, but she's like here, and then like there's something else here, so it looks like she's falling down.
Oh,
It's really cute.
okay,
and
read
so
those
yeah.
books so you get
I
the
know,
bling.
I'm gonna get it. If I'm like, that's my goal this year. I'm gonna get that 10%. I'm gonna read all of those, the whole thing. And so some of the books fill in different categories, maybe 2 or 3, and it's really up to the person to say, I'll check these off with the same book, or I'm gonna do different books. So you can do either way. You can reread a book from last year or years before, but you have to reread it this year. Like, it doesn't count if you read it before. Like, if there's a time travel one and I read this last year, doesn't count. You have to reread another one.
Okay, so it has to be older than. Okay. Do
It
they
could
do
be from
things
this year,
like?
it could be any year published, but you have to reread it basically.
Okay. Do they things like, for example, and I'm just gonna hold this in the camera one more time. The Catherine the Great. Yeah, it has it's red colored. One of the reading challenges that I did was so funky. It was a list. It was just too long, but it was fun to do, because they said like, okay, the next book you're going to read, the title has to be in a red color, So
Yeah,
I
something
had
like that,
this,
and that's
I'm like,
super random.
Okay. Super
Yeah.
random. One was
Yeah.
like, the next book you read, page 45. Look for a word that starts with A. The first word that starts with A, and then you have to have that word in the title of the next book. So
Yeah.
super.
Yeah, it's something like that,
That's
where like
fun.
sometimes it's random, and then other times it's to really choose something specific with a culture or for a type of movement or something like that. I think one of those is also like, choose a book that you don't like its cover, and that could be like any book that's very personal to you, finding it ugly, and just read it. I mean, sort of thing. But others, you do need to find a very specific type of book, because where are you going to find a book that has like 3 different characteristics in it? And so within these websites, you actually have within Book Riot and I think Pop Sugar, you can click on them, and they're creating like a list of things. And then also in Goodreads, which is a site that I use to keep track of all my books, what I read yearly, and it keeps track of how many pages, like, because I love data and I love the analysis of statistics and that. In there's forums where other people will write in and say, for this year, there's like different chat rooms or boards, better yet, because it's not really like a chat. It's like a board, and you'll write in, I'm going to read for task number 7, which is, whatever it is, I'm going to read this book. And so it gives other people ideas too on like, oh, I could maybe read this one or this one or that one. Like one of them is a romance of a fat
Goodreads,
positive
right?
protagonist. Yeah, Goodreads.
Goodreads.
And like, for instance, I'm not really like a romance book person, and those are really like happy endings. It's like somebody falls in love and it's all like, really pretty. I'm not really that type of book, but I'm gonna have to read one, and it has to be a fat positive protagonist, and I'm like, that's interesting. So, I'll go into those for when I don't really know what to read.
Right.
So
Again,
there's always
we're not here.
suggestions.
Yeah, again, to the audience, we're not here to trash any books or any reading styles or whatever you like. Everything goes. I always think as long
Everybody
as you
has
read.
their own preference.
Exactly. As long as you read, it takes your mind off of maybe a little bit of reality or whatever, or it just makes your language also, like prosper and whatnot. About the romance things, I read, I even forgot already the title. Myers, the vampire stuff.
The Twilight.
The Twilight thing for me, it didn't work because I didn't feel the language was rich enough. I read them, but it wasn't. It didn't. From a language point of view, when the English is too basic for me, then I don't feel challenged reading it. If that makes any sense.
That's true.
To you.
Well, it is a young adult novel, so it is geared for young adult could mean like teenagers to like early 20s, young adult. But a lot of people, even in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, like to read them because it's like a nostalgia moment for a time when things were easier, I guess.
Yeah.
And also the fantasy behind it is that it's vampires and that they're special and they're the good vampires. So there's a lot of fantasy behind it that she sort of changed. Because even in fantasy, like especially with vampires and different monsters, you have to have your own rules. And so the rules for that one are very...
Those were the good guys, even though they have like a bad reputation. That is very interesting.
See, but it's very convenient, and so like that makes sense that the main guy is such a good guy even though he's a vampire. So it's But I read those books as well, and I thought it was really interesting that it is true. Her language was very basic, especially describing the characters. The voices of the characters were just they're very flat.
Yeah.
But what I did find was that she had a great way of describing violent scenes and fight scenes.
Eso sí.
They were
Yes,
really good. Those were like, wow, she knows, like, if the book had been more like that, I would have been like, oh, this is great. But I think she tried to aim it for a younger audience because
that makes sense. Yeah. So that is interesting to me when I read those. That's when I did your style. I was just like, go through it. I didn't detail anything. That was for me. I just like kind of skipped through them and did like watercolor paintings. So because I didn't imagine the detail as I do in other books. Maybe because the language structure was easy or whatever. Maybe that.
Yeah, and it was also very like dramatic and emotional, and she was like, oh, who loves me more? It's like so that's not really our style, but I understand why people would be really interested in that type of book. And like young adult novels are a big industry because of that for the younger audience, and then for the older audience that just wants to think back on simpler times.
It's an easy
to
read. I have a friend, and I just we just spoke, and she was like, she's a teacher, and so she works so much. Shout out to all the teachers again. I know you guys, they did a show on teachers with Kara. So much work they have, it's crazy. And we talked about like, hey, what are you reading? And she's like, Karina, I haven't read anything. All I'm reading are like the easy go-to romance novels because that's all
fine.
Exactly. And I told her like,
That's
that is
fine.
perfectly fine.
See?
You relax. What does it do? She's like, it takes my mind off things. I'm like, okay, that's accomplished. You want to relax, you don't want to think about work, and you want to fall asleep maybe, and then that's perfectly fine. So I told you don't have to read Nietzsche or Sartre just because you feel like I need to
Anna Karenina, you don't have to read like the heavy stuff. You can read whatever makes you it, and it also changes because I think like sometimes I'm in the mood for something nonfiction, memoir. Other times I just want something really fluffy and I'll go to a fairy tale. So like it really depends on what you want to read in the moment.
Yeah, fairy tales I love. That's a childhood memory for me, like Gebrüder Grimm, Brother Grimm.
I love those.
No, so good. That's
I
when
like the originals and then listening and then
when-
reading the retellings, the changing. Oh my god, those are beautiful. Have you read those?
No, I haven't. I only have the originals from them, but I don't have the retelling. What you just said. No, I don't.
Oh, there's tons of books that have like the different version of the Little Mermaid, or like or a different point of view. Like they'll talk about, and there's a bunch of stories out there, like young adult or more adult, depending on what you like. Where they talk about the witch, or they talk about like a different perspective sort of thing, and it's really. It's kind of like a reinvention of the story, I guess. Like you reinvent it.
It's very interesting because all those Andersen Märchen and Brother Grimm and 1001 Nacht, which is the 1001 Night, that those are all so brutal, back from the day, and so Disney copied all these stories and they made it for kids, which is absolutely
they
fine.
beautified them and made them into like these romantic tales.
Because those actually, like every single one of them has always like the mean stepmother in there, and then the mean stepmother kills someone or makes her dance in hot shoes until she drops to dead, and it's written like this, they are brutal. Or they put the poor girl in a barrel with hot tar, and then they put feathers on her. No.
Yeah, I remember when I read Cinderella, there's like cutting off of toes of the stepsisters to fit in the shoes, or like the heel. There's ghosts. Sleeping Beauty is crazy as well. Sleeping Beauty is like one of the worst ones, but
so
like they
brutal.
super brutal, and I think it was more like to scare children into like not leaving the house because what would happen, or to be good people or something like.
Absolutely,
sort of thing.
I found and that is true. Like the scare techniques, used as educational measures. So I found a book. They don't have it in school anymore, but my grandmother and still my mother, they had it, and it's called Der Struwwelpeter, which is I don't know, loosely translated. I don't know, it's like a very dirty child with like long hair, long nails, and always misbehaves.
Okay.
But the measures that the writer takes, it's so brutal. Like there's one where he like the kids like they suck the thumb, right? And in comes the tailor with like big ass scissors and it's all like painted out. It's like a little comic strip, right? With those big scissors, and the next one you see on the next page, you see the guy without the thumbs and just like the blood.
And this was a fairy tale, like a children's story.
It was a school book, for like for my grandmother.
For you to behave. You get your fingers chopped off.
For you to behave. There was another story. It's like there's this girl and she plays with matches, and all you see like, oh, there's whatever Susie playing with matches. She shouldn't do that. Da 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 da. And then the last page is like house burned down. You see like a little pile of ashes and her two shoes there. What? Yeah, so
don't play with fire.
Exactly. So things changed, and I was laughing. For Christmas, my my nephew and I have one nephew and two nieces. And my nephew is the youngest one, and he loves ballet. He loves to dance at the moment. So I found a book on it. It talks about dancing and how kids are afraid of it and blah blah blah. Super nice book. So I'm very happy things changed in that section.
There's more variety now. There's different stories.
Variety.
You can tell. Yes.
Back in the day, the book would be like, "Oh, you a boy? You want to dance?"
There wouldn't be any boy books.
There wouldn't be
boys
any boy
dancing
books.
in books. Yeah.
No,
It is nice to have a more variety nowadays, where like anything goes. Like
Yes.
Like anything can be written and it's fine. There's definitely going to be an audience for any type of book, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very happy about, because the reading challenge makes you exactly do that. It makes you read something that you wouldn't pick. I had a phase I would only read books like Catherine the Great, like only that. And so reading challenge really takes me to a different country, to different writers, different time, like futuristic or everything from the past, and it's a really good thing to do. I really want to do the one, not the pop sugar. I think those are too many for me.
Yeah, that one has more. I think that one has like 40, 30 something. I can't remember how I forgot to count those, but the Book Right one has 24.
Yeah,
24,
that's
25,
nice.
yeah.
Now I have a question for you, and the audience, they might want to know that as well, is where do you buy, not where do you buy, but how do you get those books to Panama? What is the cheapest way? Because I'm poor. I cannot afford, because it's so heavy. And so what's your best way on bringing in books? What have you found?
To be honest, I buy a lot of books either used on Amazon. I like used books, and usually libraries around the world will sell them, or from Goodwill or something. I'll buy used books, but more often than not, I'll buy books on sale on Kindle, because Kindle for instance is cheaper. On Amazon is cheaper, and then there's a bunch of sales that they always have. Like for instance, there's one on the list. that I did not buy in the moment, but hopefully it'll come back. It's the challenge is to read a novel or a book from a Native American Indian author. So one of the books that came out recently is about all the good Indians, or the only good Indians, and it's about an animal that gets killed, and then they don't do like they just leave it by the side of the road, and then the animal haunts these people. And so it's about Native American Indian culture, where it's just not killing for fun. It's you know, there's like a whole tradition and ritual behind it. And then there's another book called They're There, by the author. I forgot his first name, but it's something orange, and it's sort of like a take on what's currently happening with Native American Indians, sort of thing. So when those books come out on sale, I already know sort of like, oh, I've been wanting these. And so not to like oversell Book Riot, but they have a newsletter where every day I get sent books that are on sale for Kindle, and I'll grab really good ones from there. And then sometimes they're not that great, because I mean, there's a reason some of them are on sale, but some of them are like gems, like hidden treasure. Oh my gosh.
Right, but so you do buy more for the Kindle, because you don't have the challenge to get the actual book weight into Panama. And
yeah,
I
when
have
I
to
was
break
younger,
1 second.
I would have to wait. Like, yeah.
Allison. Yes, Henry. I'm sorry. Like again, I cannot do two things at the same time. So please, everybody, stay with me. Allison, and I'm so sorry if I do not pronounce your name the right way. Allison Aller Patrick is happy to bring back some books to Panama. Thank you so much. I will definitely chat to you. Like, yes, I have a list on things that I really want to have, so we will do that. Now, a shout. Aquilino says, "The boy who cried wolf." Oh, the boy who cried. I don't know. That's all he wrote. I don't know.
The
what
Boy Who
exactly
Cried Wolf is one of it. It's like a fable.
Is it
So a fable
The
is
Boy
like a
Who
fairy
Cried
tale
by
with
Virginia
a
Woolf?
meaning.
No, completely. What?
The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
I don't know. That's what he says. Aquilino says, "The boy who cried wolf."
Yeah, it's a fairy tale / fable. I forgot who the author is, but it's like about a boy who keeps tricking people, like out of fun, like the wolves are coming, and people are like, oh no, battle, and then it turns out he was just kidding, and so he does it so many times that when the wolves actually arrive, he's like, there's a wolf, and they're like, no, we're not gonna believe you this time, and he gets eaten by the wolf. And that's actually a saying that we tell people all the time, like, don't cry wolf. Because then when the true thing happens, nobody's going to believe you.
That is so, okay, because that is English-speaking education, though, yeah? Don't cry wolf. Is that something that English you would say? That is so funny. We have that in Germany. We say when you go to a public pool, you are not allowed to cry ever for help unless you will really need help.
Something
Because
like that.
if you do that,
Yep.
nobody will okay, all right, nobody will show up. So that's a kid's book? Is that how it's
It's a
taught?
story.
It's
I
a
forgot
story.
who wrote it, but it's a story within, like, it's like a fable / fairy tale.
You
Kind
know
of like
what's
Little Red
interesting?
Riding Hood, like in there somewhere.
So this kid story just takes me to one of my kid stories, which is there's a translation. It's a character, it's Max, who's a child, and he's in his room, and he has to go to sleep, and then he imagines all these wild creatures, and I think it's called Where the Wild Creatures Live.
Where the Wild Things Are.
Where the Wild Things Are. So I don't know who wrote it, but when I was a child, that was my nighttime story to go to. Like, that was...
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know how old and where the book is coming from actually originally.
It's a very old book, but
It is.
not very old. I mean, it's a classic considered now. Yeah, it's considered a classic. The funny story from that book is I never read it as a kid, but I always remembered it, like, I don't know, from somewhere I remember seeing it. And we bought it recently because I like collecting books of all sorts for like whatever, like I love stories. I love collecting stories. I read, funnily enough, do you know why the book is based on monsters?
No.
Because the author originally was going to send the kid to like a plane full of horses, but he couldn't draw horses, and so he only drew monsters, and so he changed the whole story for it being wild things. Because he couldn't draw horses.
That is so cool. I like that. That is, I mean, he made it work. You know, that's another example, perfectly fine of understanding what I have, what can I do, you know, and you make it work. You know,
and it
always
became
work
a
with what you
classic.
have.
I don't think it would have been that classic if it had just been horses, because the monsters are so funny to look at.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Peter
There's a
and the
shout out.
Wolf Symphonies. Oh yes, I know those. Peter and the Wolf Symphonies. Okay, is that connected with The Boy Who Cried Wolf? Because I know Peter and the Wolf Symphonies. I read that when I was in Germany. And that was presented to me in the kindergarten. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that one I don't know.
Okay. You were saying something though.
Joe wants me to shout out.
Yes, absolutely.
So it is Across a Bloodstained Isthmus by Dorita Avila.
Yes. Have you
He's currently
started
reading
it?
it, and he says it's very good.
Okay, don't tell me anything. I'm on page 4. I'm gonna hold it up.
Then
Super
we also have another
recommended.
shout out.
Dorita Avila.
See. Oh, you have it too? Yes.
Yes, I have it too. It's on my absolute 2021 this month list.
Karina.
Hey Mo. I'm talking to him, but he can't hear me. That's funny.
I know. He's like, what?
Like,
Have you started reading it? Joe started.
I am
reading
on
it.
page 4, so don't tell me anything.
Ah, okay.
I like it. I
I know
like
what
it. I
page
like
it
it.
is.
It starts, and those are books when you start and you want to keep reading. I love those are my favorite books by the way. Like you
These are
start,
the best books.
yeah, you start and you just don't put it down, So I really like when
Yes.
that happens.
And
So
Joe
that's
is
Dorita
fascinated.
Avila,
He,
and it's Across a Bloodstained Isthmus.
It's
Yes.
about the Scottish colonizing.
So it's about a Scottish settlement that they came
Uh-huh.
actually to Darien in Panama.
Yes.
Yes.
This is Joe's favorite topic. He has 7 books. So when he found out that this was a Panamanian author that wrote this, he was like, I have to have it. I have to
Yeah,
have it.
You
He
can
has
buy
so many
the.
books about that.
We're gonna also post that. You can buy the book online on Amazon, and this one, the paperback, she has it here in Panama, so hay que contactar a
sí.
ella directamente. Exacto. Like you have to
Supporting
contact
local
her or
authors.
go through Rapscallions or the Famscallions. And we can hook you up with the book if you would like to. Maybe you missed Christmas and you still want to
For
give
January
someone a gift.
6th, it's a good January 6th Dia de los Reyes.
Oh, that's
Dia de los
right.
Reyes Magos.
You give gifts here, right?
Some
for
people
January
do.
6th.
Some people have
Yeah.
that tradition where more presents.
Yeah, why not? I would always
Why
want
not?
more books. What is next on your list? What are your all-time favorites? Do you have them on your desk? You showed
Bueno,
me
I'm
the
gonna show
time
you. I'm
travel.
gonna show you one book, and then I wanted to ask you something. So I
Okay.
have a very interesting book that is about. It's a double type of book. I don't know if it's a genre because it's technically fiction, but it's So I like reading books that are epistolary, which are letter writing or journals that are stamped. Those are called epistolary, where the person is writing a journal and you're reading their journal. Like Dracula does that. And
Yeah,
other
that's
books,
the Mozart's letters or things like that.
Yes. That would be considered epistolary. So I found a book that is not only epistolary, but is also a type of book called ergodic. So it's ERGODIC. And ergodic means it has something to do with cybertext and programming, but then related to books like ergodic literature has to do with the book has a specific rule of reading it, and you have to figure out how to read the book.
What?
So you're
Okay.
Yes. It's a type of experience that you go through the book that it's sort of like there's one that's right behind me that if I bring it out, I could talk 2 hours just about that book. It is insane. It's called House of Leaves, and the book is insane to read through because it takes you back and forth and it's cryptic. So the book that I found that I'm going to show you is called Griffin and Sabine: An Extraordinary Correspondence by Nick Bantock.
Okay.
And this book, so this book it's basically 2 people writing letters to each other. And I'm going to show you, it starts off with a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
The next page has what's written in the postcard. So you're reading their correspondence. But
Okay.
then you run into a page, let me show you, where you actually open it. And you take out
No,
the
I
letter.
love those. Yes.
And you read, And so this is a typewritten note from either Griffin. I think this is for Griffin, and it has typos, almost like you're reading an actual. You know. And so the correspondence is really interesting. You're trying to figure out as you're reading it where they are and why are they sending stuff to each other, because he's like, I don't know who you are, and so it's very mysterious until the very end. And so this is the part one of part of 3. And so this
it's
has
interactive, practically.
Yes. And this author actually is really famous for his pop-up books. So it makes sense that he wrote this sort of mixture. It's a combination. And so this, I will say, like, this is my favorite type of book, but it's the most difficult to find because it's very rare. And this can't be found in Kindle. This is only paper hardcover because you can't pull out cards and things like that. So books like this, whenever I see like lists, because I have so many lists of books that are like weird books or strange types of storytelling, my favorite.
Nice.
Highly recommended. It's very nice.
You said you have a question though for me.
Yes.
And I
I was
also
gonna
get
ask you.
a pop-up here that we have 8 minutes left on the show.
Yes.
All right. So with a question, and then we're gonna 7 minutes, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Yo, Mo.
My Mo handler needs to play the Mo. Handle the Mo. There you
Handle
go.
the Mo.
See.
What was your question?
I was gonna ask you, what is your ultra favorite book? And if you can't find a book, like most favorite book, what would be your favorite genre or like type of book to read?
Okay, I do have it. It's again, for me, it's Catherine the Great, just because. So it's historic fiction. No, it's not fiction. It's historic. It's like a biography.
Yeah, it's historic fiction.
But historic fiction. But just because, not so much about the politics and all that, but I love the time. For me, anything that's 1700 and something. I love everything from 16 to 1800. I'm in love. I could read it all the time.
But
Just
is it like a
that's my
biography of
genre.
her, or is it like a story where she's like a character?
No, it's a biography, but it is
Okay.
a story. So they are very. So while I read this book, Catherine the Great, I spent a lot of time on Wikipedia and online and Google, just because there's so many characters in there that are also very interesting to me, because she met, let's be honest, apart from all her lovers, which I really don't care about, but she met with the philosophers from France and the painters from Italy and so on and so on. So it's just such an era for me, packed with interesting characters. Just from I'm a fan of this time and day, of the history from us. So, and apart from that, when I feel tired and I feel like I can't go on anymore and I have 1,000 projects, I remember this woman that was a worker, a hard worker. She worked so much and she read so much and she just did and always kept going, and she was so focused. So for me, that's always my favorite book. And then I have one more. That's my Bible. That's the Art of Acting from Stella Adler, which also is great for life, because she gives so many great tips on observing imagination, how to be present.
That's
So
and
those
that's
are
really
my two.
important too.
Those are my two favorites. Yeah. Now, my dear, I think we wrap it up.
Yes, I've been given them 4 minutes.
I know we have 4 minutes. Now, I have no idea how this wrap up works. It's our first show. Thank you, audience. Thank you so much.
Yes,
We're gonna
it's
try.
been really fun.
Thank you, Kelly, too, and HB and Joe for having us. This has been extremely fun, super interesting. I have forgot to mention one more. It's Jean-Paul Sartre, Le Mur, which is also on my list. Other than that, which button do I press after we say goodbye?
I'm telling Joe.
No idea. But before we have awkward silence, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. I hope you guys are going to read more this year. We hope it was interesting for you. Do the reading challenge. We're going to post it on the social platforms. Other
Yes,
than
I
that,
think we should do like a post of all of the books that we showed, plus all of those challenges. And I'd say like if those challenges are too daunting, because it's also like try not to set yourself up for failure. is to challenge yourself. So like read, if a challenge for a person is 2 books, cool. Read your 2 books, but like really, set your sights to really seeing them. So do a challenge for yourself.
Have Kelly
Aquilino says
share
bye.
her favorite books. No, I think I got whispered in my ear. Your favorite book is the one you showed me, right? That is your
The
favorite.
ocean at the end of the
favorite.
lane. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yes.
That is, but is that the one where the pop-up where you can take things out? No.
No, this is Griffin and Sabine.
And the ocean at the end of the lane was, did we talk about that?
Yes, it was the first
We
one.
did. Yes, exactly. We started with that one. Perfect. Wonderful.
It's hard to like say what it's about because it's like a fairy tale and monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about Neil Gaiman is that he writes about monsters and
Mm-hmm.
things in the darkness that make you afraid of the dark. Like,
Oh,
but in
wow.
such a way
Okay.
where you don't realize where he's taking you until you're there and you're like, oh my god.
Oh my God.
So it is I love anything from Neil Gaiman is
Maybe we do a
beautiful.
category in the future like books not to read in the dark because you will be afraid.
he makes it, but it's not like Stephen King where it's like monster in your face, fear, horror. It's very subtle. It gets under your
There.
skin. Where later on, when you're trying to fall asleep, you're like, it is the way that he writes is amazing. So yeah, it is definitely my favorite book. But he himself is one of my favorite authors. Highly recommend anything that he writes.
Yeah, no,
definitely for that.
I love him. I love him, love him, love him. Okay, now I think we will
Definitely
stop.
wrap up. I don't know how to wrap it up, babe.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for your time and everybody out
Gracias,
there.
Karina. It was fun.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now you press the button.
Every year in January, all the kids take down their Christmas tree, and we all get together as a community and we set those trees on fire.
Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. Because the fire get hot, hot, hot. And the mosquito them drop, drop, drop. And then the fire get hot, red hot. And the mosquito them pop, pop, pop. And they do the bobby wombo. And they do the bobby wombo. And they do the bobby wombo. Oh, and then they do the bobby wombo. Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. Cause me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn. The beer leg we bite, bite, bite. The barbecue just right, right, right. We making music through the night, night, night. And then they make a fire light, light, light. And they do the bobby wombo. 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 And then 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 they do the bobby wombo.
Mosquito bite on the leg and feet.
Move your body, sway to the beat.
Hear the punching check, hear the band.
Call the bombero fireman.
Find a partner, then grab a tree.
Throw it in on the count of three. Step back, watch the fire rise.
Watch mosquito drop from the sky. Mosquito bite on the leg and feet. Move your body straight to the beat. Hear the punching check, hear the band. Call the bombero fireman. Find a partner, then grab a tree. Throw it in on the count of three. Step back, watch the fire rise. Watch mosquito drop from the sky.
Me no want to be a mosquito down at the Christmas tree burn. Down at the Christmas tree burn.